Blessings to you. Great to hear from you and pray that you are all doing well on this glorious Saturday. And we just thank God for another opportunity to be able to do this work here on YouTube. And I hope I just believe in my heart that you'll be blessed by these encouragements and these little nuggets that you just ponder in your mind and think about. And so I thank you for joining this channel. And as always, before we jump and get started, I ask that you would please could you just subscribe. I wanted to thank got a new subscriber all the way from Hinesville, Georgia, Elizabeth Davis Torres, and I thank you for tuning into my YouTube. So please subscribe to our channel. Also, give me a thumbs up and please ring the bell to be alerted of any new upcoming videos that will be coming real soon. Again, I want to jump right into tonight's lesson, and I want to again pray that everyone will be blessed by this word, as I said earlier, and in preparing your mind for Sunday as you prepare to go to your various places of worship or whatever, how you do with the way that you do, but you get your mind focused on worshiping and serving the Lord. Today's word, it comes from a meditation I did, a little, Lord kind of woke you up in the morning kind of thing. And this was about back in 2020 when it did this. And I just run across it again, and I just felt impressed that it would be great just to throw this little nugget out there to you, the greater audience, to consider and think about. It's coming from a conversation between Jesus and one of his disciples in John chapter 14. This is the recording of those last week of Jesus' life, and there are nuggets as he prepares his disciples for his departure and gets them mentally prepared. In other words, to transition from him being with them and doing it with them to transferring the work and the ministry over to them for them to continue the work. But there was a little conversation between one of the disciples as Jesus was teaching that will be the heart of our discussion for tonight. And if you allow me, let's jump right on it. It's John chapter 14. I'm going to read verses 6 and 7 for your hearing. So Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. He said, if you had known me, you would have known my Father also. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Let me read that last because I stumbled on that last phrase. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Powerful words that Jesus is giving to all of his disciples, but one of the disciples by the name of Philip. Philip, he heard what Jesus was saying, but his mind was sort of puzzled. And so, and Jesus responds to him. So I want to talk tonight, from this particular thought, from those words, from that conversation. So no one has seen God, but we have. No one has seen God, but we have. Listen to this. Because I could hear, I could see some of the pop-ups going on in your mind. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll see him when I get to heaven. But if you listen to the context of the conversation. I mean, you read it and you can literally put yourself in that conversation. And you look at the words that Jesus is portraying to him. I want to clarify to those who may have doubt, those who are challenging, the faith. Look at this conversation. Philip inquires of Jesus. He says, because this is what he said in verse 8 of John 14. He said this. He said, Lord, show us the Father. And, now notice, and is enough for us. He said, you show us the Father, and that's enough for us, is what he's saying. And Jesus responds to him. Because now watch. No, I'm getting tired of it. But watch this. Because what Jesus is going to respond to him. Because what Philip heard, verse 7. What Philip heard Jesus say. You could say the truth, but we all process things different. But what he heard Jesus says in the preceding verses, the intro verses that were read. He said, I heard what you said, but we have seen the Father? And so Jesus had to kind of correct him and sort of illuminate to him into his little mind and understanding. And as I look at that, not to get angry or upset with Philip, because many of us are in the same position as Philip is when it comes to this concern about, have you seen God? Now, here's what Jesus said in verse 9 as he responds to him. He says, have I been with you so long and you still don't know me, Philip? And as I read that and reread that again, my mind was, in our language today, I can hear Jesus say, for real? He's saying, for real? Say what? Or he could have said, you got to be kidding me. This is Jesus' response to the inner circle group who have been walking with him for 3 years, and he still doesn't know who the Father is. And so Jesus has to correct him, and it's here where I wanted to try to draw this, to bring it back to the focus of the subject. We have, they said, no man has seen God, but we have. Here's what Jesus said. He said, whoever has seen me has seen the Father. And so he asked the question, how can you say, show us the Father? And here's that word, because it pops up in this discussion, in the conversation. That one word that I want to highlight just for today's discussion. It's that one word, seen. The word seen. In other words, you have seen. In other words, it's the past participle of the word see, or it's a transitional verb. See, by definition, if you will, see means to perceive. It's three key words that I want to drop into your mind to you think about when I say, no man has seen God, but we have. Look, that word perceive, that word see, it says to perceive, or that is to detect. To perceive or detect, as if by sight. The second drawing understanding of that word seen is to be aware of, that is to recognize. The third meaning of that word seen or see means to come to know or to discover. Wow, these are some powerful. So when you put the conversation in the context in which Jesus is relaying to him, he says, now you've been with me for 3 years. You've seen, you observed, you've heard my teaching. You have seen the power of God flow through me. You have seen. So you should have detected. You should have recognized, you should have discovered the Father. Oh, you hear me tonight. And so I know I'm going back again. Doc, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. And somebody's gonna see this video, and you're gonna, ain't nobody seeing God. God ain't real, and you can't know Him, and all these things. Really? That's not what's being portrayed. That's not what's being taught in the lesson today. I know you say no one, and then you go to Scripture, and I'm gonna go there with you. First John chapter 4 verse 12 says, no man has seen God at any time. And even Moses made this request. You remember in Exodus 33 verse 20. Moses had asked, Lord, can I see your face? And God responds to him in this conversation in Exodus 33:20. He responds to him and says, you cannot see my face, for no man shall see me and live. Now, with those two scriptures that I just laid on you, how then can you say you've seen God? Yes, I have. Jesus makes it very clear. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. All you are. So what then am I want you to think about and ponder? There's two aspects of this word see in the English, anyway, in the word see. In other words, when God spoke to Moses and responded to Moses, he was in this. Look, allow me to put it. He said, no one can see my raw form. In other words, you can't see God in His natural form and live so long as we're in this body. So God is explaining to Moses, how you hear me today, if you look at my face and see me in my natural, in my raw form, you would be consumed and burnt. So therefore you cannot live. So I'm not talking about the raw form of God. That word see, those three words, detect. All right, we're going to detect His presence. It's detectable, recognizable, and discoverable. How then, if I cannot see according to the raw form of God and live, how then can I say we have? And when I say we, I'm speaking about those who are followers of Jesus Christ. You have accepted Him. And when I mean accepted Him, I'm talking about in your heart of heart, in your soul of souls, you have confessed with your mouth the Lord Jesus, in that you believe that God raised Him up from the dead. And the Bible declares anyone who accepts that by faith is saved. Thou shalt be saved. So I'm talking to you. So that means when you see Jesus. So then you're saying, well, Doc, how do I see Jesus? Through His word. Like anything else, there's a lot of things we walk away and it is right on. We never physically saw it, but we have saw the evidence of it. It's like the other day, school. And before I get there, so what I'm talking about here, not the raw form. No one has seen the raw form of God and lived save Jesus Christ, because He said no one had been the Father except me. So what then is He talking about? The form that He's speaking of that gives credence and evidence to the fact that this is God, beyond the shadow of God, is what I call, if you allow me, I call this the perceived form of God. The perceived form of God. Whoa. What do you mean by that, Doc? Well, let me cool your horses. Hang in there with me. Here's what I'm saying to you. That same Moses had a conversation with God earlier. At the beginning, because at the beginning, that conversation I referenced to you was after the people had freed all of the Jews from Israel, from Egypt, and brought them into the mountain of God. But prior to that, he had an encounter with God. He did not see the raw form of God. He saw the perceived what I call the perceived form of God, in the form of a burning bush. He saw this bush. His eyes saw this bush burning, but it was not consumed. He heard a voice come out of the bush. Says, take off your shoes, for the ground that you're standing on is holy ground. Who then did he perceived, he heard, he didn't see the raw form, but the evidence led to the beyond the shadow of a doubt. God was talking to him and called him out by name. He had a personal encounter with God because of what the perceivable. Paul talks about this in Revelations, that you could read it in, I think, chapter 1 of Romans 1 and 2. He says we can discover God by the very things he created. And not only just come up with some analysis that there's some intelligent being that created this, but we can know the very Godhead through the evidence of his creation. And I was going to say in school, the teacher, the class that I'm in, was teaching science to the students. Took them outside, and what he wanted them to do is observation, to learn, to look, to observe. And it was a pretty cloudy day, but it was also a windy day. Now, and they had to write down everything that they saw, the trees, the leaves, earth, the ground, rocks, whatever, water, because he's teaching a certain thing I won't go into detail without, but he's teaching that. Now, one of the students, or several of the students, said, I felt, watch this, I couldn't see the wind. He said, but I felt it. And I felt the wind, and I also observed the effects the wind was having on trees and the leaves. Therefore, I knew it was wind. So we got enough of a perceived. Don't give me this stuff about, well, I got to see it before I believe it. No, half stuff even with your eyes, you can't understand it. Oh, you don't hear me today. And Jesus is teaching us that you can know the Father. So if you want to know God the Father, learn Jesus Christ, encounter him. And through the word, through reading the word, his mind, his attitude, how he handles situations, how he prays, how he's able to perform miracles, how he's able to teach, all of these things. And he will tell you, and part two of this, I'll come back with a part two of this to finish this up, but I won't do it all today. It's too much. Part two of this, he'll say, look, what you observe me do. He's telling them, he's going to teach them. What you observe me do, Philip, that my Father does the work. The words that you heard coming out of these are my Father's words. He says, it is the Father that does the work. So, in other words, so if you look at me, I'm the perceivable. I'm the thing that's on the same frequency level that you are on. And if you observe me, you can see the deeper things. And this is elementary if you think about it. There's a lot of things that you look at your eyes, but you can't really, but you can sense it. You can feel it. You can know. And so I'm telling you that he said, no one has seen God in his raw form, but you can know God and you can see God through Jesus Christ. So here's the thing, and I don't want to keep you too long. Here's what Jesus is teaching us. He's teaching us this. He says, because he told Philip, he says, Philip, don't you know something? See, Jesus made the Father visible. Jesus made the Father visible. In other words, how did he do that? He made the Father detectable. Nicodemus, I believe chapter 3 of John, comes and says, look, we having these private, he's talking about the Pharisees, he says, these private meetings at the Pharisees, says, and he comes to Jesus by night, he says, look, Lord, he said, Rabbi, teacher, we know thou art from God, because no one can do what you do except they've been with God. In other words, they saw the perceivable through observation of what Jesus did, what he taught, the way he taught that word, the way he performed, the way he handled the thing. They saw the evidence. No one can do what you do, he says, except you've been with God. And Jesus makes it clear. Now, if you look at his prayer in John 17, he prays very clear. He says, I've told them who you are. I've given your word. Everyone that you gave to me, I imparted in them you. They know who you are by observing me. Now, this is vital. So he made the Father detectable. And I'm going to get to us followers of Christ what that means and how you can answer that question. Don't be scurrying around and, well, no. You know God the Father through his Son, because his Son, Jesus, made the Father detectable. In other words, I didn't know God was even around unless I saw what I saw through Jesus Christ. Not only did he make the Father detectable, but he made him recognizable. You know, God's been working on many of us all our days of our life, but you haven't recognized it. You said I was lucky. You said this happened, that happened. It just, it was just sheer luck. No, it wasn't. It was the hand of God looking out for you. He honor. In many cases, I have to use my own personal life. In many cases, many things that I have went through in my life, right on the edge of death, facing death, and it didn't happen to me because I truly believe that God honored the prayers of my dad and my mom. They prayed for me. This strong-willed, quick-tempered individual young man, they saw something, because I remember them telling me that you're up to do something great, and I couldn't see it, couldn't believe it. But because of what they taught me and what I was able to observe through their actions and behavior, I recognize God the Father. And so therefore, Jesus made the Father detectable. He made the Father recognizable. But again, he also helped us. He helped us make the Father discoverable. He says, no one comes to the Father except through me, he says in John 10. And so if you really want to know, and I'm trying to give you, those of you who are followers of Jesus Christ, I'm trying to speak to you this night. If Lord give you will to rise in the morning and go to your prospective places of worship or whatever you do on Sunday, I want you to walk with your head up, knowing that you ain't got to guess it. You ain't got to wait like Job until my change come. No, your change has come. If you've had an encounter with Jesus Christ, you have met the Father. In fact, Jesus in John 15 or 14, or right in that same chapter, 14, 15, you read it. He said these two things. And again, I'm going to bring these up next week. He said these things. He said, if you love me, he says, if you love me, keep my word. It says, if you truly love me, keep my commandments. Now, when you do this, on one of those verses in John 14 or 15, you read it. He said, if he who obeys, he who keeps my commandment, he says, I will reveal or make known myself, not only me, but my Father. We will come and manifest ourselves to that one. So child of God, Christian, if you want to call yourself Christian, I'm calling myself follower of God. I want you to declare, when people say no one has seen God, I want you to stand up and say, but we have. Maybe you haven't, but we have. We have seen him. We've seen the evidence of him through the works of Jesus Christ. If you allow me, just for a quick, if I give my own little personal testimony on this, and I hope I ain't scaring y'all. Y'all get mad all you want to. You got the power in your hand. You can turn this YouTube off and go somewhere else. That's on you. But I want you to know personally that as a follower of Jesus, when I say we have, I want you to know I have. I have seen his grace and mercy. All these 72 and a half years I've been on this planet, I have witnessed and seen the grace and mercy of God, because there are many things in my life I should not even be sitting here tonight. I should not even be broadcasting over these airwaves on YouTube, because if it had not been for grace and mercy following me, I wouldn't be here today. I have seen the righteous that had not been forsaken, and his seed, according to David, not begging bread. I've been there. I've been there when there were not absolutely nothing in the cupboard for my family, my kids to eat. Nothing. And the payday was already long gone and behind me, and there was more days in front of me, and the check wasn't coming yet. I'm absolutely nothing but prayer. The prayers of the righteous, they say, avail of much. And I have seen it and experienced it for myself. I have seen his hand of deliverance throughout my life. There's too many incidents. There's too many situations. And I know if I was able, and I'm looking to see if anybody's chatting. I don't see anybody chat. If you want to jump on in this thing, jump on it. Send me a chat, and I'll respond to whatever question you have. Now I'm looking. I don't see it. I don't know if I got it right or not, but I got the chat on. But I just need you to know that I've seen this through deliverance through my life, the ups and downs, things I've done. Stupid mistakes I've done, and look, that should have cost me my life, but deliverance, the hand of God stepped in on my behalf. Didn't deserve it, and I'm not speaking religious yada 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 to you. I'm talking personal experience. It don't matter to me whether you believe it or not. I know for myself, and until you know for yourself, and the only way you know that, you will know God's favor when you see Jesus. Because when you see Jesus, you see the Father. I've seen this, man. I've seen him make a way out of no way. Day after day, month after month, year after year. I've seen it for myself. I've experienced it for myself. So you can talk about all this foolishness all you want to, but I don't believe, well, that's fine. But I'm telling you, you can know God the Father. You can see him through these things I just told you, just simple things like the wind. I can't see it, but I can experience it. I've seen him. I have seen his love in action. When I'm talking about I'm talking about unconditional love. Unconditional love. I'm here to tell you, ain't deserve a whole lot. What I do deserve, mercy and grace kept me from getting it. And why was that? Because of his love. Why are you still here when everybody left, right, and up, front, and back you is going off this way, but here you still stand, and you can't see, and you can't understand that it's the hand of mercy and grace and the love of God that's keeping you? See, you keeping you? You don't have to. No, you may not have seen it with your physical eyes, but the experiences of what he is doing every day of your life. The old folks, just say the little simple thing, he woke me up this morning. He started me on my way. He gave me the activities of my limb. He gave me a little piece of mind that I have. I don't deserve it, but it's because I've seen God for myself. And I know what he can do. Since I know what he can do, I can believe what he will do. Are you hearing me today? I've seen death, death's grip abated. In other words, death had me. He had me dead to rights, right dead in that scope. But God, Jesus, but God. So you told me I haven't seen God. I don't tell you, I have. I've seen what God can do. In other words, I have seen him answer my cries of despair. So you sit up here and trying to, you philosophical people or whatever, well, y'all, I ain't seen it with my own eye, because you don't know what you're looking for. The mere fact that you can even make that statement you ought to give God a hallelujah. You got air to breathe that you didn't create. Never runs out. Everybody, and it's been here, air been on this planet for billions of years. We'll be here after we gone. You didn't put it here. It was here when you got here. So I've seen it. I've seen him answer my cries. I don't know about you. So all I can do is give my personal testimony. Is that I've experienced him answering my despairing cry. And so therefore, I hear you say, no one has seen God, but I'm here to tell you, I have. I have. And why? And why? It's simple. It's because through Jesus, through Christ, the Father, as I'm going to say it again, the Father, through Christ, the Father has been detectable, the Father has been recognizable, the Father has been discoverable through Jesus Christ. And therefore, I want to wrap this up and close it out before I get too heavy on you. I don't want to keep you too long. It's this. The evidence is this, and I'll give you this in next week's lesson. So if you want some more, come on back to the channel next Saturday at 6 p.m. and we'll give you the rest of this. But I want to leave you with this thought, because you'll see in the next following verses. Read those verses and that I gave to you out of John 14. He said you could ask anything. Because of the evidence, because the Father is real, because you have a relationship with the Father through me, he's going to tell them, and he's telling us through the word. He says you can ask anything. And not only that, he says do greater earthly works than Jesus. Now he says greater things shall you do. Shall you do. Why? Because through him you have discovered God the Father. Through Christ you have detected his presence through Christ. And this is very important, because you could be in some dark moments where you feel like there's nobody, you're all by yourself. But I want you to know God is still there, and he's detectable, and he's recognizable. You want to say, who that? Who that? Who that? When you know Jesus, you'll know who that, because Jesus said, no one comes to the Father except by me. My sheep hear my voice, and another they will not respond or answer to. So I'm going to leave you right there today. And so God is good, and I thank you for tuning in. And I pray something has been said that will stir up your heart. So until the next video, as always, may God's presence be known to you. May God's favor be upon you forever. May God's grace and mercy follow you just as well forever, because I know God is real. He's not a theory. He's not a, philosophy. He's real. And I know him, and you can know him through Jesus Christ. Because Jesus said, if you've seen me, you've seen my Father. Man, I got to go, because I don't want to stay too keep you too long. Before I do go, I do want to ask you consider purchasing my book, Doing the Great Work, which is based on these scriptures that we will continue with in part 2 of this lesson. But we have, I call it my But We Have series. So I'll give you part 2 of that. But I ask that you consider, because again, my book is based on Jesus' words, "A greater work shall you do." And we're going to look in that book. It's going to describe to you how's that possible? How is that possible? So I want to say to you, thank you so much for coming to this channel and for subscribing. In fact, I ask you to do, before you leave, would you be so kind to do these 3 things for me? Would you be so kind to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and ring the bell for upcoming videos that will be coming forth as the Lord leads. So again, I pray that you have a wonderful, blessed rest of the day, rest of the evening, and if the Lord allow you to wake up in the morning, say thank you. Yeah, just say thank you. And if you're unsure about who God the Father is, come to know Christ. If you get to know Christ, he guarantees, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Why? Because he says, everything I have done, everything I say, it's the Father. So it's real, and I'll pick this up next in our next broadcast. So until the next video, God bless you, and God keep you always is my prayer.